Hey y'all, it's Michael, and today I'm here to talk about two more short story collections that I recently finished. I previously did another video where I talked about the previous short story collections that I finished, so if you want to check it out, I'll link it right here. But today, the theme that I wanted to talk about is being Filipino. So I have two short story collections, both by Filipino authors, and I just wanted to talk about them because I am Filipinos. I'm gonna do this video a little bit different because usually I would talk about each one of them separately, but in this instance, I'm gonna talk about them both kinda ish together. The first book was Monstrous by Leslie Tenorio, and then the second one is In the Country by Mia Alvar. Each of the main character in each of the short stories from both of these collections are Filipinos or Filipinas. The thing that they really do have both in common is that they really, for me anyways, is bring this sense of nostalgia, especially because, in case you don't know, I actually came to the US when I was 7, 8-ish. I was born in the Philippines, and then me and my dad moved over here when my mom and my sister was already here because they came first. And because of my own experiences immigrating over here, I related a lot. I felt as though both of these short story collections really has this grasp on the Filipino experience. Now, there's no definitive Filipino experience. It's just that, like, the tone, the feeling, the ambiance of being a Filipino, not only living in the Philippines, but also living somewhere else, like abroad. Overall, both of these short story collections were written pretty well. I didn't have no gripes or anything about that, but I did find that In the Country by Mia Alvar, I personally enjoyed it more than Monstrous by Tenario. That's just a personal thing for me. First, let's talk about Monstrous by Leslie Tenario. So the first short story on here was actually pretty interesting. It's the actual title of the collection, which is Monstrous. I really enjoyed this one. This is about like a B monster flick director and his wife, and them moving to California because of an opportunity. And this is quintessential, like a Filipino thing, that thinking that moving overseas or moving somewhere else will basically enrich your life. Um, Not even like figuratively, but literally, like monetary wise, like with real money. I really enjoy this because it really does set the tone for this collection, for the other short stories within the collection. The next one is called The Brothers. Without giving too much away, this is kind of like um, it has like a Maury-esque feel to it. Yeah, I really I enjoyed that. The best short story in this collection is Felix Staro. I really like this one. Without giving too much away, like usual with these short story collections, this is about a healer who it's kind of like a fake healer, I guess you could say. But the main point of this is about the lengths of what people will do literally to get citizenship, especially in the USA. Let me tell you, getting a citizenship in the USA is incredibly, first off, it's rigorous, long, it's hard, but it's expensive. Overseas, this is just from my experience. Overseas, the US of A is really seen as one of those countries where you can make anything out of nothing. And in this short story, he really does believe that that will occur, but things don't work out essentially. There's another memorable short story from this collection, and that's Help. This one was so interesting. This took place in the Philippines when the Beatles were like so popular. And this is basically about a group of men who wants to do something to the Beatles, not necessarily like get their autograph. So yeah, that one was really interesting for me anyways. It didn't it never surpassed like this 5-star quality per se. And overall, in the end, I gave it 3.5 out of 5. But there are definitely some standouts from this collection. The next short story collection is In the Country by Mia Alvar. Now, this has a lot of memorable short stories. I actually quite enjoyed a lot of them. The main difference between say like this one and Monstrous is that this one, majority of the main characters were Filipinas. Filipinas are basically Filipino women. But so that's that. What I also really enjoyed about both of them was that they use a lot of Filipino. Well, my family, we are there's so here's how language works in the Philippines. The main language there is Tagalog. That's what everybody speaks essentially. That's like the main language next to and then under that is basically like English. And then there's like a whole bunch of different dialects within all of the islands. And my family's from Ilocos Norte, which is the northern part of the Philippines, and there we speak Ilocano. It's great that both of these collections use a lot of Tagalog words, and I really appreciated that because it felt again like that point of nostalgia. It really brought that around again. But it's also great how both of these short story collections really incorporate it in a way that you don't necessarily have to know what that word really means if you don't know nothing about Tagalog. I mean, I knew what the words meant, but like there's enough context clues within the way that they wrote that it's easy to grasp what that word means. The first short story on here, The Contrabida, I thought set the tone really well for these short story collections. Really does talk about more of like the immigration experience, not feeling belong, especially not when you're outside the country, but also like when you're in the Philippines. It's really interesting. I really like that. The second short story I thought was really great, which is The Miracle Worker. This one is about a woman who is in what was it? Oh, Bahrain, and she has to help her job. Usually, this is also another thing too. Usually, when Filipinos like move out of the Philippines, they tend to get like a contract at being something like a teacher, a nurse, an engineer, a doctor, like. And in this short story, she gets a job as a tutor. I guess you could say a tutor, and it was fantastic. I was like, wow, this short story was really good. And then the next one after that was fantastic because it brought back a lot of nostalgia for me personally, and that's Legends of the White Lady. Now, the White Lady, there's very different variations all over the Philippines, but it's basically a woman dressed in white who haunts sometimes men, but I've heard variations, and I heard that it's women too, but it's basically a white woman, a Filipino woman in all white who kills. Like, it's like a ghost story almost. I just remember being a kid, like genuinely being scared of the White Lady because in the Philippines, my fam, my family, my mom, my dad lived more in like the city, and my mom is basically from the mountains. I would call it a village. I wouldn't call it a town. It would be a village, and in the village there are no like lampposts, so there are long stretches of land. Literally, I say that when the when the sun goes down, it is pitch black, like it's dark, and you can't see anything. And I just remember running across the rice fields, being scared because someone made a white lady comment, and like I just remember being a kid running through the rice fields, being really scared of the white lady. And I thought that this was, well, it's also great that this is like a variation of that. I was like, oh, this is so cool, and I really liked it. Another one is called Esmeralda. This was great. This takes place before, during, yeah, before and during 9/11 in New York, but it deals with this Filipina who, I guess you could say a janitor, but she's a cleaning maid for this building, and she develops this relationship with one of the co-workers in the building. And I was like, whoa, this is great because it's told in third person and second person, and when it switches to the second person, I thought it was, for me, it wasn't jarring. The last one that I really enjoyed was called A Contract Overseas. This one was really interesting because it's something that I know a lot of Filipinos encounter. This is about a family sister, and her brother basically goes to Saudi Arabia for a job, and like this is a common thing too, is that the people overseas would save money to bring to like send to their family to the Philippines. So like, you know, for food, clothes, bills, that type of thing. And this was really interesting because I love the dynamics between the brother's baby mama and the sister. I thought it was really, I really liked it. Now, the main thing with this short story collection is that the last short story on here is more of a novella. It's called It's in the Country. And this, for me, I think it's one of those things where it kind of went over my head because with Filipino history, I don't know as much as I should with like more than I know of obviously U.S. history, because that's what I know. I've been here for so long, so I obviously know about that. This short story has a lot of political like nuances that I didn't, as a Filipino American who doesn't know that much about Filipino history. I felt like a lot of the political nuances and the history went over my head. And so this one for me like was just the slug of the collection. But overall, I really enjoyed these short stories. I thought it's a I thought both of these short story collections, Monstrous and In the Country, were great. I think both of them definitely have while there's no definitive Filipino experience, in all honesty, the only definitive experience is the one that you yourself know. But I felt as though these short stories, both from both collections, really explore the Filipino experience in the country of the Philippines, but also mainly outside of it. I mean, there's even a Filipino word for Filipinos outside of the Philippines, which is balikbayan. So I thought that aspect was really great. If you read any of the short story collection, let me know what you think about it. Until then, I'll see you guys till later. Bye!